Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Thursday, May 10th meeting of the Blackstone Millville Regional School District School Committee. I would call this meeting to order, ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing afterwards. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would ask that we remain standing for a moment of silence to remember, I can never do this without getting to, Mr. Robert Bougerie, who passed away this week. He was a long-term employee of the district, and his daughter-in-law, Patty, still works with us today. Thank you. Our prayers go out to his family. Okay, introduction of members.
Hi, I'm Bethany Dunton. I'm Blackstone representative.
Tammy Lemieux, Blackstone representative.
Tara Larkin, Millville representative.
Erin Vinaco, Millville.
Jane Reggio, Millville.
Jack Keefe, Blackstone.
Karen Vernon, Millville.
Sarah Williams, Blackstone.
Jessica Morris, Blackstone.
Ellen Himmelberger, Superintendent.
Thank you, everyone. Jessica, you're on. Anything new and exciting happening?
Yeah, so this week we started AP exams at the high school, and that'll continue through next week. We have students taking both in-school and online courses in AP, so Anita and I both have taken our exams for both VHS and in-school this week, and we've felt really prepared for both, so that was good. And then coming into this next week, it's the seniors' last week of school, so finishing with AP exams, we have senior week. So after that, we are looking forward to our class trip the 29th, our banquet at River Falls, and then senior awards night, all leading up to graduation on the 1st. For underclassmen, they now have an opportunity to get a head start on SAT prep. So every Friday during support period, the math department, and I think English is going to start too, they're holding SAT practice questions. So I think Mr. Mack is doing 5 every Friday, so they have the opportunity to do that. And I think it counts for extra credit for that class, so that's awesome. And then last week, NHS hosted the third quarter honor roll breakfast, and they did a great job, so that was really nice. And this will be a new project for next week, but I'll just introduce it now. Student Council is doing Seeds for Change, which is going to be a donation for Puerto Rico to, I guess, kind of replenish a lot of their crops. So that'll be next week, and we're taking donations. For activities, spring sports is now well into the season, and we're super proud of a lot of the teams who are bringing in really great wins and PRs for the school. The track team had their GNB Sunset Invitational this past weekend, and we had 3 boys qualify for states, one setting a school record, and the girls medaled, so that was awesome. Aiden Ryan was chosen by MIAA as Athlete of the Month, so kudos to her. And prom was the 27th, the day after the last meeting. That was really beautiful. Grandview was beautiful, and the rain ended up holding off, so it ended up being nice weather. And the music department's spring concert is going to be next week too. So a little bit of everything going on next week. That's all.
Thank you very much. Well, best of luck to you, and thank you. And we wait to hear from more of your accomplishments.
Thank you.
Any questions for Jessica? Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I would like to invite Monica Cardy up to the table, and who has a presentation to share with us. She is our elementary technology teacher at JFK.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Summer, we want to try to run a summer STEAM camp at the complex. This is going to be stipend, is going to be paid by BEPO, and any of the funds made from the camp are going to go back into the school for different purposes through BEPO. What we're really just looking for is the ability and your blessing to use the school
the school building for this process. The camp right now is going to be in 2 sessions, which each day is a different activity, kind of a different theme, involving science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, keeping the kids well engaged, but in a fun way in the summer.
This will be taking place in the computer lab and some of the surrounding classrooms. It'll be, 2 weeks in July. It's 4 days a week, and Mrs. Carter will be there, and we'll also have a couple other volunteers, so she won't be going solo on this. But again, this is great because she runs an after-school STEAM program right now that's extremely popular, very well received. This kind of builds on that, and she's being modest. She runs all these type of things during the school year, and it's a tremendous success. So I think this is one of these things, she'll put it out there and it'll sell out in that amount of time.
So that was actually one of my questions. Is there and I haven't gotten to the back page, there is
No,
a
absolutely.
minimum.
There is
a
a-
limit.
So on the back, it does
Yeah.
list where the fill out is, so that way we know what grade, what teacher they're coming from, and it is a first come, first serve basis.
Okay.
So the first ones we get, when it fills, it's done, and then we'll be moving to a waiting list,
Okay.
because it is a paid program.
So
Go ahead, yes.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So is this, the intent, obviously the intent, there's some educational purpose through the summer.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Is it also the intent to be a fundraiser? So BPO is going to pay your salary, and then the money from the $60 from the 20 people will then go back into the BPO
Yes.
pool?
Yes,
Okay.
and BPO, I don't know how much they've known, but this year they have done a phenomenal job supporting technology in the district. They've been supporting it quite a lot lately. This year alone, they bought us around $5,000 worth of robotics, so that at the elementary level in the complex that they have been able to do things with called B-bots and Ozbots and Little Bits during the time where I normally wouldn't have a computer lab because of MCAS going on. So them to have more funds to hopefully continue funding the things that, like technology and advancing what we have at the school, would be an amazing opportunity for me to help raise that in some sense.
And the facilities are available?
Yeah.
It won't impact anything, we don't have anything else going on?
I mean, I'm coordinating with, Downstairs Rose, our custodian, to make sure that he just want to clean that hallway these weeks, but we have enough we can work around.
We don't want to mess up the WAC schedule.
Oh, you don't touch that.
Just kidding.
Where is our summer school? Or
It's
This one.
It's same place.
Yeah, same
Yeah.
place, and actually it's going to be the same hallway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it'll be minimal impact.
A busy place.
There is like
That's good.
It's the wing that's going out in the back towards Menon Street, so there is an entrance on that side as well. So they don't necessarily have to, traipse through the whole building to get there. It's a fairly short path. So,
And parents and caregivers will drop off and pick up and.
Yes.
yeah, no transportation on our end at all.
Yep. Well, I think it sounds exciting,
Love it. I think it's a great idea.
and I would entertain a motion to approve this. If people, moved by Aaron, is there a second?
Second.
Second by everybody. Pick a name, Monique. Any other discussions, comment? All those in favor of supporting and allowing the summer STEAM camp, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. We look forward to hearing about it, because personally, there's many that I would like to attend, but I've long since passed fourth
You can
grade.
volunteer, James.
You're
I
more
could
than welcome to
volunteer.
join as a volunteer.
I could volunteer.
Yeah, I would love to have you.
Yes.
I have one more announcement that Monica Cardy is representing BMR this year at the Blackstone Valley Superintendent's Consortium's Promising Practices Awards and Breakfast, and she is well deserving of the nomination for the impact that she's had, and what an outstanding year you have had. And I know that everybody in that room will be very much paying attention to your presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful night.
You too. Start planning those lemons and popsicles. At this time, I'm going to ask that we go out of order of our agenda for a moment and invite Mrs. Sheridan to come up and talk to us about food service and what other exciting things are happening.
Other exciting things.
Well, good evening. One, it's nice to be here because when I sat here a year ago, I said my goal for the year was going to be the high school. And that's been on my bucket list for a good number of years, and I'm happy to say we have, if you've been to the Arts Night, you've seen the kind of stuff that the high school staff can do. But in the past year, through grants, we've been able to add high top tables, which are well used at all meals. We've added a coffee station, a salad bar, and more importantly, with the support period in the morning, our breakfast participation has increased from about 30 to well over 100 students eating breakfast with us every day. So I don't know if I thought I was going to get there, but the high school is making all the progress that we want it to do. But I'm probably coming here for another reason tonight. In your packet, you're going to see that our school lunch program is always self-funded. We pay all our own bills, we pay our own labor, we pay health benefits, which is actually very unheard of in my world that the program would have to absorb it. And we've been able to do that over the last number of years while still maintaining a healthy fund balance. While we still have the fund balance, because we're hoping and praying nothing breaks in the way we all do, with the contractual issues with last year's contract, we're coming much closer on our ability to stay in the black, and obviously our goal is to always be in the black. So the easiest or the most direct way to alleviate that is I'm going to come to you and ask for an increase in prices, and I'm really going to ask for it across the board. If you see in your packet, I've given you the comps for what all of the other contiguous towns are serving their meals for, and I think by asking for 25 cents across the board, lunch, elementary, high school, middle school, and breakfast, you'll see that with our current participation, we can definitely put ourselves into some better footing as we go into the next year.
Jane?
Yes.
I know that actually I think it was my first vote here, put in a new food policy that allowed students to, sorry, you distracted me, allowed students to continue to get lunch without question. And so I guess my question is, as you're stabbing yourself in the heart over there, what is the outstanding balance? Because I don't want to charge the families who are doing their job and paying their bills and paying their lunch, and then meanwhile you have X amount of money outstanding, and we're going to keep increasing that the other way.
Okay, there's a two-pronged answer to that.
Okay.
When the school committee decided to change the policy, and it's very much in line with all the talk we're hearing about lunch shaming, we were running about a balance of maybe $700 to $1,000 in the negative each year. We're currently pretty close to $4,000 in balances, and we're talking about a lot of direct appeal to families. We're talking collections, we're talking letters home, we're talking Mrs. Cobb is involved, everybody's involved. The unfortunate part is it's a handful of families. It's not, we probably have a list of about 20 that make up 60 to 70% of that balance. So that is one part of the story. But the other more important part is any balances that are on the books when we end the school year this year are actually not absorbed by the school lunch program. According to the USDA rules, any negative balances have to be paid for out of the school budget, not out of my budget. So my double-sorted answer is, yes, we have made some choices in how we're going to deal with negative balances that are going to have a consequence of increased costs, but they're not going to be my increased costs. So it's not really going to affect how I come to you when I ask for a price increase, because they're not apples and oranges in this case.
Any other questions? Okay, go ahead.
Didn't think she was done. What you're handing us right here has anticipated revenue of $27,000. That's at the new price?
That is, if we were to go ahead with a price increase, we should realize approximately that much in additional revenue.
So what is your current revenue?
Our
Over
current
this year?
revenue, and it goes on to the third sheet, I show you where I'm projecting this year will probably come out someplace between probably $7,000 to the good, which would then be eaten by any contractual increases next year. So we will be in the black at the end of this year with no issues. If we don't get a price increase, we will not be in the black a year from now.
So on this breakout that she has for us, I just want to understand it a little better because I didn't see it. When you're saying contractual increases, we're talking salary lines?
Correct.
And we're talking a major number of our Unit C members?
Not a major, but some. Oh,
Everyone
everyone who would be
Unit C.
Unit C, yes.
And benefits. So is there any money from this covering any part of the benefit conversations we've been having?
Any number of the,
If this revenue is covering Unit C employees that specifically work in the cafeteria, where does that fall into place with the line items we've been speaking about for insurance and reimbursement and
well, I think you heard Mrs. Sheridan say
what
that.
part of the insurance is this covering?
Just the employees. It covers their share of the, as opposed to the general fund budget, which covers the district share. That is
So
covered
are those
from.
employees included in the figure that we had a 5% increase on?
I don't believe so. I'd have to double check with Mrs. Cobb, but I don't believe so. Because they're outside of the.
We have always
General fund
covered the
budget.
cost of all of our benefit costs, and including the increases, so I would assume that would continue.
Mrs. Cobb should be here in about 20 minutes.
Any additional questions? Any questions?
Do we have an estimate of, well, I mean, you can figure it out,
Make money, so.
per child, like how much would that be per year if you say they only get lunch?
Well, if you look at 18,000 paid breakfasts over 10 months, that's 180, or 1,800 a month. So breaking that down to 20 days, I mean, it's a fair amount of our paid students will be infected by this.
And is anything going to change in their meal selections or our menu?
I don't think there's a direct correlation. It's not as though you go up a quarter and you get an extra chicken.
Banana.
You know, a couple of, so, I mean, I think we've got a menu right now that's very well accepted, so there's no plan to increase quantities to cover this. This is really looking at what it costs us to put that lunch on the plate and how we say self-sustaining. And that's our only goal. We're never going to be a moneymaker, but we are not, we're going to cover our costs.
But we are a school, so we're obviously a nonprofit, and to turn around and say this would create $27,000 in revenue, where is that money going back to? If it's not meals.
Salary increase.
If the last time that I came to you for a cost increase was 2014, so,
Well, actually, you came to us with one, I think it was last year, or it might have been 2 years ago, that we didn't support. The last time that it was increased was 2014.
yeah, I don't remember that, but yes, we increased in 2014, so we're 4 years out. So my assumption would be this increase in revenue would cover us, we don't have to come back probably for another 3 years. That would be my goal. So, I mean, it doesn't make, you could go up 8 cents, but that just doesn't make a whole bunch of sense in how we get people through, and I think I'd much rather come to you once than to come to you annually to do this kind of an increase.
It's just, I mean, I think we just need to look at it as an impact on the families that, if you have, let's say, an average of 3 kids in school buying lunch 5 days a week, it's $180 a month that they're putting into, and that's just lunch, not breakfast.
You know, when you look at our price at $2.50 right now, going to $2.75, that's what people pay for a Dunkin'.
It's also going to increase our debt, though, for if you have a $4,000 debt right now with unpaid balances, and we bring the price of lunch up, our debt's going to grow. That you just let us know is our responsibility, which is, I assume, coming out of an E&D line. Our debt's going to be higher if those, with those unpaid lunches.
I don't know that. I don't know that, I think. I don't know that, you know, that's
Well,
not
if we
a
added
correlation.
25 cents to the lunch price right now, times the number of unpaid lunches, it would be higher than $4,000.
So, but if they didn't turn a revenue and they couldn't cover the salaries and benefits, we would then
Yeah.
cover the salaries and benefits.
And in the past, we
so-
did have to cover their benefits. I believe it was about 7 years ago where it went back into the cafeteria.
You know, I've been here for 9, and we've always covered our own costs.
When you came in, it
It
was
may have been
being
the year
paid for
before
by
me.
the district.
Before me.
And I think it was 2 years in that you were able to turn that around for us. I'm not looking to be negative, but I'm not looking to, walk out with a $27,000 surplus of.
Well, I
But I
think that's what
Yeah.
increases
I
the
think in
revenue.
the
I don't think that's a
I think in the
surplus.
paragraph above it.
Yeah, I
It
think
talks
you-
about basically where that 27.75
Is going.
would go, would be to do that 3%. It would cover the difference in that paragraph.
So
I'm reading.
as I'm reading this,
Looks like
as I'm reading it, it essentially says, if we don't see an increase, we'll see a deficit next year.
That's my projection at this
So
point.
it's not as if it'll be 27,000
To the good.
bonus. It will bring in 27,000, which will cover the expenses that are foreseen. That's how I'm reading.
If you look, you know, our numbers this year, our food cost is holding, we're going to project it's holding. Our labor costs are up because of contractually. All of our other costs are 9% last year, 9% this year. So I don't think we're spending anything imprudently. I think it's just a cost of business.
And if we raise our lunch price for the students that are free and reduced, is it compensated back to you?
There is not a
at-
correlation to that. The reduced price meal, the reduced meal prices are set by the USDA, and obviously,
Wherever they are.
there's no revenue from the free students, the students eligible for free meals.
You're not being reimbursed?
We are being reimbursed.
Okay. So will that be reimbursement increase based on our set price for lunch?
Historically, our reimbursement will increase, but not in correlation to any price difference that we charge. I mean, they usually,
They have a set price?
I'm sorry?
They have
The
set
USDA sets the reimbursement price.
Do you know what it is?
Currently, It's currently $2.86. We have some severe needs students at JFK and AFM that are affecting that a little bit to the higher. We get $1.82 back on a free breakfast. We get 30 cents less than that, and 40 cents less than those figures on lunch. I mean, if you look at the P&L, our reimbursements are very much laid out on there. Currently, our reimbursements are almost equal to the amount of revenue we bring in.
Any other questions? I will entertain a motion to increase the price of all the meals at all the locations by 25 cents for the next year.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, moved by Jack. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tammy. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, one. Any abstentions? Okay.
Thank you.
Before you leave the table, I do understand that maybe there's another announcement that you will be departing
I will be departing.
from our services, and I have to say that my experience with you has not been as long as others at the table, but it has always been pleasant, and I appreciate what you have done for this district. I think that we are better served because of the service that you have given us. So.
Thank you very much.
I was going to save that for another meeting, but since you're here,
Sorry.
I don't have any flowers with me tonight, but I wanted to recognize Jean's service to our district. She has been here 9 years, and since I have been here these past 4, I call her up at crazy hours of the week asking for
Food trucks.
her services.
Food trucks?
And she has never said, no, we can't do that. And a great example was the Arts Night on August.
That was wonderful.
On April 26th. She has served teacher appreciation breakfasts in each one of our schools this week. She did supper with the super. She has graced and made our mediations and contractual negotiations a better scene. So the work that she has done on behalf of our students and the staff is really amazing, and that's the reason why she was the Northeast Food Service Director of the Year last year. And she is a champion of making sure that kids eat and kids eat healthy. She is well known by her peers across the country. She presents at other conferences, and Jean will be missed. And we wish.
Just being here, and especially the staff, because they're the ones that pull all those.
So we
right
wish you
events.
all the best in your next endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't know that. Well, these ones have to go that way.
Okay.
I don't know who's got what. There are some papers going around to be signed, and I think we've split them all up, and so just before you go, make sure that
Miss. Oh, that one.
Miss, is a miss, well, we'll get them at the end.
Thank you.
School committee. You have in front of you the calendar for meetings next year. I don't know if we got this last time too. And I think we can consider approving it. I wonder if we should approve it tentatively. There may be changes when the new superintendent may want to do things differently, the same, whatever, but did anybody have any concerns about
We
this
just hold
calendar?
it in case it all changes,
Is there something
the
we
new-
can talk about next week?
It's something we can,
the incoming.
Yeah, I mean, the chair
Yeah.
certainly has.
The other thing is we can approve it and amend it
Yeah.
if something's different, so at least we have something in place. I mean,
so people are
the
aware
reality
of-
is none of us know what we're doing tomorrow, so what I'm doing June 13th of 2019 is like,
I think the biggest one, I mean, we don't have to approve the whole calendar. We do need to make sure, though, that we have that meeting in July, because we do have to close out the books. So that one is the important one. So perhaps if,
I will not be here.
Okay. If anyone knows they will not be here on
I'm
July
trying
9th.
not to be here
It was
either.
actually, the one you gave us a week ago, it was on July
12th?
12th.
I think.
It has to occur that
Not
week.
that I would be here for
Yeah.
that.
You wouldn't be here the 12th either?
Neither will I.
Oh. Would
It
you be
needs to
here the
done
9th?
By the
Yes.
15th,
I'll be here the
Yes.
Ellen, the 15th?
Yes.
Yeah.
By the 15th, it has to be done.
Right.
So you would be here the 9th.
Yes.
You won't be here either. You'll be good. You won't be here either. I'll be good.
Should be.
You, unless you're on a roof.
Talking July 9th.
July 9th.
Yes, I'm good. Next week,
Okay.
I'm good.
So let's
Good the 9th.
leave that July 9th for now.
Circle it on your calendars.
And
Just put a big old circle in it.
hold on everything else. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
What?
I missed my first meeting as the last year of the,
Right.
I'm just
The
saying.
last year of what?
I mean, the last meeting of the year is going
It's
to be
very
my first
difficult
missed
time of
meeting.
year.
Oh, it's tough
But
to,
it's okay.
My
I don't feel that
question
No, go
on
ahead.
July 9th is that, can we, what you said, when is on her way?
She should be here, yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna assume anything, but the Wednesday before that is 4th of July. Is she even in that week? Like, that's a lot of, that's a typical vacation week for a
Yeah.
lot of people, so are we putting too much on her by needing to have it done on Monday?
I asked and she said, no, that's fine. So,
well, any of
Just
those
not-
days, I have no issue,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it, but
You just have
we
to
start to
hold it.
lose people
yeah,
as we go out.
you have to hold it by the 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be a better day, I was just.
Yeah, yeah, we can ask.
Are people around the week before? I am.
But
Yeah.
Gwen has to finish.
Yeah, it takes them a few days to get everything closed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Yep. Okay. Second and third would be it.
Okay, so we'll
Okay.
tentatively hold July 9th, and the rest of them will hold. Okay. At this meeting, I wanted to have a discussion about subcommittees. First, just a general discussion about the options that either we have had in the past or people have expressed interest in, and kind of talk a little bit about what that might mean. And then if anybody has any feelings that we definitely should have ones or the other, or we don't need something, we can certainly cross that off. And then what you would do after that is you would just send an email to myself or write me a note or however works best for you of your preferences. And we will assign people to committees and talk about the goals of those committees and so forth and so on. So the ones that we've either had or have been suggested as good ideas, one would be marketing and outreach, really working with our communities. We had a great start last night, meeting with the town representatives and FinCom, and I think we could do more of that and more of telling people what we're good at here, because we have a lot to be proud of in Blackstone and Millville, and it would be nice to tell people about that. But does anybody have strong feelings that we should do that, or what else could be in that, or?
I have strong feelings. I mean, that's part of our goal is to increase marketing and in the hopes to decrease school choice. So I think that definitely has to, I personally think that has to be on there.
Okay. Anybody else? Thoughts?
No, I agree with Tammy.
I think it's probably good to keep policy on there, keep those updated and such.
Yeah. Okay. Regional agreement, we tried this year, we tried to revisit the concept of regionalizing the entire, we are a regional district, but regionalizing from K to 5, and we disbanded that. But I wonder if the group has any interest of perhaps reconvening with a different focus, maybe moving different grade levels to different schools, or shifting certain grades to certain schools, and not necessarily the whole thing, but maybe looking at options. If people are not aware, we all know that there are some financial constraints in both of our communities which lead to tremendous financial constraints on the school district, and we've got to start looking at all potential options. And the regional agreement stops us from doing some of that. So I would like to see that back on the table with a whole new, creative, different approach. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
Agree. I agree with you. Yep.
And policy, I think, has to be on there just so we stay on top of things and don't wait another however many years and do a manual over again. Advocacy and government liaison, one of the things that we were questioned about from our townsfolk last night is what are we doing as a district to try to change things? And, one of the things that we can do is get more involved with our people running for office or people in office or, what's happening beyond the walls of Blackstone and Millville. And so that's why we put that on there. What if folks think about that? Sarah, what do you think about that?
It's a good one.
I'm on board. Would that also then deal with educating the public about what's going on at the State House?
Absolutely.
Or would that fall under marketing outreach?
No, I think both,
Can we
but
work
I think.
together?
Might be some overlap.
Yep.
A little bit of overlap. Okay.
You just signed yourself up for both committees.
I'm on.
In the past, we have not had a finance committee. We have made the decision that that's one of our deals, is that we are responsible for budget, so we all do that together. But I don't know if it would be helpful to Wen to have a small group that she could work with, or people who get more into the warrants and stuff like that. I don't know. What do y'all think? Keep it as a big group, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think it would be helpful, though, to have a subcommittee that would perhaps organize it so that it's more understandable to the public, so that maybe we have painting a better picture of what our out-of-district costs are, students going out, students that come back. I don't know. That's what I was picturing.
Marketing committee maybe can
Yeah, that's true.
paint that picture?
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I agree. We have to do that year round, not just in budget season.
Right.
But there was discussion at our meeting yesterday
Of having
around
more.
having quarterly meetings with the town and with the administration here, and that would kind of fill that financial piece and us having a better understanding, which could then filter to marketing.
Right. And I mean, when you guys do a great job, it's just because you're in it all.
Right.
Yep.
You get
Sometimes.
it. We all don't get it all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe we can work
Like a layman's
together
understanding of,
to develop some kind of document for town meetings.
Yep.
Just
Well, your budget
one
book is
page.
Yeah.
phenomenal. We
Yeah.
got to get people to read it, but it is a phenomenal document. And I think if we had it going around all the time, people would be used to seeing those numbers. Okay. Personnel and negotiations, it is a year that we will enter negotiation with Unit A. So I do think that needs to be on the,
How does that work? How many of us are on that committee?
it's up to us.
Okay.
We've had 2, and we've had 4, and
And they have 16?
they
So
have
I think we
16.
can have more.
So, yeah, it's up to us.
Yeah. Should
Yeah.
have that.
I think we've always tried to make sure there was Blackstone and Millville
Okay.
representation when possible, but it could be all of us,
Could be.
or it could be our attorney.
It could be. And us. Transportation, other folks, places have that, but I don't know.
I think for us, transportation is so tied to the regional agreement that there's not really a lot
What
that
would
you
that
get to
be?
talk
I
about.
don't even
I mean,
know.
it would just be
I mean, I don't think we're,
Eventually.
I
I've
don't
seen
think
it-
we're putting
It'd be
another
really-
contract
it'd be
out.
I've seen it captured
Yeah.
under its facilities and operations, and then transportation becomes a part of that.
Oh.
But I'm almost wondering if that is like the last resort, once it's already worked its way through the chain of command,
Right.
hopefully, like principal, superintendent, and then to the school committee. I guess maybe it would go to the subcommittee first before it comes to the full, I don't know. It's just something that I
I'm
found.
thinking we can cross that one out. Technology.
What would that be?
Yeah, what is?
I don't know.
We don't have a budget.
Well, we don't have a budget. We did, Sean did develop for us a technology plan. I know that it ran to next year, and so it's probably time to redevelop a technology plan, but I don't know that we need a committee. Yeah, I don't know that,
It's
yeah.
his forte.
I don't know that we need unless somebody, yeah, no. All right, facilities. I do think it would be nice. I don't know if people have any interest, but to have a group of people that really is working with the towns, but not on a budget issue, on a capital issue and on a school issue and,
Capital.
okay, /capital. And if these MSBA projects come through that, somebody's, what?
Fire alarms.
Fire alarms?
So no surprises.
Yeah.
I think that one, I think that is important, because I think part of why we're talking about fire alarms and septic systems and that in the middle of this is that we're not having the conversation all the time to fix things before they get big or before they're 20 years old.
Right.
In the case of
Yeah.
the fire alarm.
Yeah.
So I think it would be, beneficial to us as well as the towns to have those open conversations with the folks that do capital outlay in that. So I think that would be useful.
I agree.
And it's probably not something that has to meet weekly, monthly, but probably
No.
quarterly and,
Communication.
Right.
but-
Communication from
Yeah.
the issues
Back and forth,
to
yep.
the full committee.
Okay, people good about that one? Okay. School committee goals and self-evaluation, that is also one of our responsibilities, and each school gives us an improvement plan, and then the district improvement plan that we participate in, but we really need our own. What are our goals, and what are our plans, and how are we doing as a group? And so I know that our incoming superintendent has a great interest in working with us to make sure that that's on track. So we'll add that one. If anybody has interest, great. And then we do have an annual superintendent evaluation process. It starts with the superintendent setting his goals for the upcoming year and so forth. And it's pretty well scripted. We just need somebody or a couple people who are willing to stay on top of it. We had it working really well when Wendy was involved, Wendy Greenstein, but she worked in a school system. She understood that evaluation process well, and so if there are a group of people who have an interest in that, I think it would serve us well as a committee to make sure we're on top of that.
I think, and I don't want to get off track here, but I think our new superintendent is expecting us to stay on top of it, just from conversation
Yeah,
while sitting with him.
yeah,
We better know what we're
Yeah.
doing, because
okay.
he's going to be waiting for it, I think.
Well, that's not a bad thing. He's
No.
going to write it as.
No, I'm not saying it
That's-
as a
yeah.
negative thing at all, I think he's going to keep us to our timeline.
Anybody have anything else they've been thinking of that we ought to add in the list?
Curriculum and learning?
What?
Curriculum?
I don't know.
Or does
From
that-
what perspective? Because that's not us.
Well, would it, or maybe,
Yeah.
would it be,
Like data sharing or
Right,
data, whatever.
right.
But it's really somebody
that
staying
falls
on top
under
to make it come to
administrative,
us.
right?
Yeah,
That's-
yeah.
Curriculum wouldn't be a school committee function.
No. I'd just seen it somewhere.
Something.
Threw it out.
That's a good, throwing out is good.
I'm good at that.
And throwing it way out is even
But
better.
it would be if we were making sure we were keeping up with the standards on a timeline, not so much of, but, someone like putting it in line with budget and timeline, I think
I
that
think
might
if-
be what you meant.
Yeah. Well, it sounds good. It sounds better than what I said.
But we need a curriculum direction.
It was exactly what she was going
Yes.
for.
Yeah, there you go.
Just a nod.
All right. Well, if anybody has particular interest on 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of them that they'd like to serve on, the more the merrier. Yeah, 5.
Tammy
5. I
wants
said 5.
Tammy's in.
No. whatever you have interest in, please send me a note, let me know, and we will make some assignments and get to work. Okay. Opportunity next for public forum. If anybody would like to share information with us, or
We move that until after our independence report, just in case someone
would you
has
like to?
budget questions.
Okay. We can add another one if people feel okay about that, having it later. Okay. Is there anybody that wants to say something now? Okay, all right. Consent agenda A, we had warrants, field trip, minutes of the April 26th meeting, and some executive session minutes. They're not in here?
Break out.
Oh,
I think they're the green.
Are they someone else?
are they not?
Oh, they're not in, never mind, they're in our folders.
But I think we
They're
would
in my
break it up.
Oh.
signature folder.
So people can abstain from the executive.
Okay, so can we do warrants, field trips, and minutes of the April 26th meeting?
We have to.
Okay?
Yep.
Yes, we
Yeah,
have two
2
field
field
trips. Yeah. Okay. I will entertain a motion to move warrants, field trips, and minutes of April 26th.
So moved. Sorry.
Second.
Moved by Tammy, seconded by Jack. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Executive committee minutes, we have some from September 27th, October 10th, February 13th, February 15th, March 27th, and April 26th.
May this is only my second time
Approving
doing
executive
this
session.
process. So my question for myself is, whatever we read here, that's what gets released?
No.
Okay.
So what
do
we
we-
are approved, so when we're supposed to do them sooner, and that we're catching up. But we're supposed to do them within so many days after an executive session, and all we do is that we as a committee approve the record that that's what we said or did or whatever.
Okay.
They then become still executive session,
Okay.
whatever. If somebody asks for them or after a certain length of time, then they become released, but we can,
Redact
anything
information.
that, yeah.
Okay.
Did we just get an email? Did everyone get that? That explained the,
It's the cover.
The cover page of this?
oh, maybe it's in our packet?
Yeah, it is.
I knew I read it.
I remembered last time of something, a conversation about redacting information of names or whatever, and
Yeah.
I saw names, so I wasn't sure what we were
No,
doing.
so they're
Okay,
just,
thank you.
we're agreeing that that's kind of what we covered in those, or not kind of, that is what we covered in those meetings, if anybody can recall back, when dinosaurs roamed, oh, I'm just kidding. To September. And then they will be on file and out in the world.
Do we have
So-
to do them separate, the one?
So I wasn't here for the first one.
You weren't here for the first one? Okay. So I will entertain a motion to approve the September 27th executive session minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And abstentions? 2.
Aye.
Okay.
Abstain.
And now we can do the rest of them, Sarah? You were here? Okay. So
Bethany.
Bethany.
Bethany was not, yes, no, I know, but, okay. So we'll move, entertain a motion to approve the minutes from October 10th through March 27th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Sarah, second by Karen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? 1. Okay. Thank you all. And thank you, Tara, for holding on to them and finding me. Report of the superintendent. Oh,
There was one more.
There's one more.
there's one more?
Bethany was at this one. There's one more, April 26th.
Yep.
That everybody can vote on.
Oh, okay. I'll entertain a motion for April 26th.
When? So moved.
Moved by, who said that, Tara? Tara?
Second.
Second by Tammy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And any abstention? Okay. Okay, so now I think, Mr. Himmelberger.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Reggio. The first order is to approve school choice for the upcoming school year, 2018-19. Every school committee must vote prior to June 1st whether or not the district will be accepting school choice pupils for the upcoming year. The vote may specify specific grades and numbers, although that is not a requirement, nor is it binding. And then the vote must be summarized and sent to the Department of Ed. School choice as a system has been coming under some criticism for some of the unintended consequences, but by and large, the recommendation would be for the district to continue to accept school choice students for next year in all grade levels, subject to class size. And the motion is there for you.
Okay. Just so that folks know, we are approving a motion for accepting students into our school. We have no ability to approve anything that says they can't leave, but it's to welcome people who would joy to come in, and we have had several wonderful students bring a lot of value to our district. So I would entertain a motion to approve the participation of Blackstone Millville Regional School District in the school choice program for the 2018-19 school year at all grade levels, subject to class size limitations.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Tara and seconded by Bethany. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the participation of Blackstone Millville Regional School District in the school choice program for the 2018-19 school year at all grade levels, subject to class size limitations, please signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, there you go.
Thank you. In your packet, we also had the resubmission of the life-threatening allergy management policy. I know we had looked at that earlier, and hopefully the questions were answered, but I submit that to the committee for your approval and/or discussion.
Erin, were you checking
So
on something?
I was the one that had the question and held it, and I did receive my answer from Karen Young, basically saying that the procedures are not changing from peanut-free areas, which was my main question, but they were broken out of policy into procedure, and that she essentially, let's see if I can even. I mean, her essential answer to me was that nothing in the buildings was changing, that it was more, it was just becoming the procedure, and it was going to be taught more throughout the staff and students, and that the signs would still remain in the preschool areas as well as middle school. So I'm comfortable with the way it was written. My concern was that it wasn't in the policy, that there would be those areas in the buildings, and she said it is part of the procedures.
The procedure and in the protocol for their operation, it exists as well. So we should see that in the handbooks and stuff like that. Any other questions? I would entertain a motion to, I don't know. It's new. Is it new?
Accepting
Is it new, though, or is it a
It's not, so we'll just be accepting the policy. as
the
written.
amendment to the life-threatening allergy management policy as written?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Tammy, seconded by Karen. Is there any discussion?
The only discussion I have as policy person is.
What do we do?
Who do, what do we do? No, you know, we have those little codes.
JA, I was just gonna-
Yes.
that's what I was just gonna say.
How do we know?
So
Where do we get a code?
So once we approve this, then you would submit this to Dorothy as an amendment to what exists, and then ask her to put the JLJ reference on the top.
And do we, is this,
And then you need to put the date by which it was done on the bottom.
and this is in our electronic packet as well, so I can email it to Dorothy?
I believe so.
Or I can scan it anyway.
Yeah,
I can be a
PDFs.
problem solver.
Yeah.
Okay,
They
thank you.
They retype it anyway, that's what they do.
Oh, okay.
But we do have to find the JA, whatever the code is that references the policy.
Okay.
And it has to get dated. So she has date underneath there. You gotta delete hers and put
Okay.
ours.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of amending the life-threatening policy to the proposed policy as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, life-threatening allergies.
Thank you. Last but not least, FY19 budget update. So as many of you know, both here in the audience and watching at home, this is a long process that continues. Started back in November, and with the release of my 3-year strategic plan, and continued with a joint meeting in January of all parties, and moved into the April 30th special town meeting in Millville to consider an override, which did not pass, and continues as we all met last evening with the town officials, chairman of the boards of selectmen, the finance committee, the town administrators, the leadership team, the school committee, and towns have had their public hearings from the finance committees. And so we are faced with the perfect storm, a large gap in what we have for anticipated revenues and offsets as compared with our need. And it is a significant gap, and there's a lot of work to be done. Monday, coming up on the 14th, is the Millville Town Meeting, and the 29th is Blackstone's Town Meeting. Those will give us a pretty good indication of what the towns will support, and I believe that it is safe to say that both towns are in very conservative positions. And obviously, given the lack of cooperation at the state level supporting funding and appropriating for funding that directly affects regional school districts, coupled with the continued reduction at the federal level of all of our title grants, coupled with an uneven approach to Norfolk Agricultural High School and the cost that we bear for that per student. Just to give you an example, FY17, the per pupil expenditure for the state averaged across all districts $15,900, very close to $16,000 per student. BMR's per pupil expenditure for FY17, $13,488. That is what we are dealt with, and that's what we have to do with. We have families that support the education. We have a staff that works incredibly hard every day to make sure that we give the very best that we can. But we are looking at a year where we are going to have to regroup and hold some initiatives because we simply don't anticipate the revenues from all parties, local, state, and federal. And so it puts us in a very challenging position. And so we obviously have to look at, and the committee has been blurry-eyed looking at numbers to see what we can reduce with the least impact to students and education, and the least impact to livelihoods and family economics. So it is a challenge, and it will be a challenge as we continue to do the work. Last night, the joint meeting, which was polite, civil, analytical, thoughtful sharing of information, somehow didn't change the number. And the towns simply do not have the ability to support what the school committee has adopted as a budget. So we will continue to work. I know that everybody wants to know, well, what are we going to do? And I think that that is a delicate balance, because if we are talking about specific positions that impacts staff, and that's not fair to do that in a public forum until it is time to release all of that information. I think that there are still some opportunities, but it's going to be a busy few weeks as we go through our town meetings. And I think that I would certainly turn it over to Mrs. Reggio, but I think that's where we are right now. And it will be a regrouping, retrenching year, no matter how we look at it. And I have made sure that I'm in, while I am in communication with our new superintendent, Dr. DeFalco, I think it's important to have a number for him to work with. So my opinion, my recommendation would be to come up with a number that all entities can support. Not have to deal with the unevenness and the inequity of not having a number on July 1st. We tried that 2 years ago. It didn't work out so well, because then we are restricted to spend 1/12 of our prior year's budget. The state monitors it, and we cannot purchase what we need to purchase to start the school year. You typically spend 35% of your school budget to get ready for school in that first quarter. So you really need to be able to have the flexibility to pay your bills. So the value is in knowing the budget number. And we have until June 29th this year to figure that out. And I think that that is certainly going to take up a lot of our time over the next few weeks, but that's the hard work that has to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will share a bit about the meeting that we had last night. And while we did not come to a complete consensus, we did have some very valuable dialogue and some sharing of information. And we had essentially three different numbers, two of which really weren't that different, just used a different percentage basis to figure out. But we had the budget recommended by the Blackstone Board of Selectmen, the budget recommended by the Millville Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee, and then the budget recommended by the Blackstone Finance Committee, and it is that number that we will ask all the towns to support. So for those of you who have read the budget numbers or seen the budget book, that equates to $8,563,108 from Blackstone, and of which $897,886 is what we call supplemental investment or additional investment, and $2,919,554 from Millville, or a supplemental investment of $338,020. We felt like that was the best we could ask of our communities in these tough economic times. And public education in Massachusetts is not set up to support public schools in Massachusetts. And so it does fall on the backs of the taxpayers, and the taxpayers in these communities have been asked to do a lot. And one of our communities simply can't do that at this point in time anymore. And we hope that they will support this number that's a little bit above what was recommended by the town of Millville, about $38,000 above. But we hope that they will do that both in their budget and in their contingency budget should the override pass on June 19th. Even given those dollars and the little bit extra to the school, it still means that we as a district, from the budget that we adopted in March, need to cut $1,514,529. So $1,500,000 will be tough. It will be very difficult. And if anybody has creative ideas, suggestions, we welcome them. Again, as Mr. Himmelberger said, we will not talk about cutting particular positions or particular people or things like that. That's not what we would share in a public meeting at this stage. But we do want the message to be very clear to the communities that we are asking for the support that we think is reasonable. We are hoping that both communities agree to that at their town meetings, and certainly through the contingency plan in Millville and the override, so that we do not have to go any further. That on June 19th, after the Millville vote, there would be a budget in place and we would be able to move forward. So that's our plan. No hidden secrets, no surprises, but it means $1.5 million. So does anybody have any things in that regard that they want to talk about, mention in a general sense?
As far as what we want to what we are thinking about specifically cutting, that's
or
the
things we want to make sure don't get cut, or
that list is much
general. Though general thoughts.
Well, first, may I just say I wanted to thank the Blackstone Finance FinCom for approving an additional $100,000 from what the Blackstone Board of Selectmen had recommended, because I think we have been attending all of those meetings and we have been stressing the school department's need, and so I want to thank them for. I mean, I think in the scheme of things, like we talked about, it seems like when you're cutting $1.5 million, $100,000, like what's that? But I think every penny sort of counts, and so that if that goes through at that number, it will equate to $138,000 if we get Millville on board. So I think in the scheme of things, that may save things that we really want. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because it doesn't always happen that way.
You're right.
And
now, any ideas? Go ahead.
Just a quick comment that at the State House today, the Great and General Court did consider several initiatives that will ultimately, I think, aid and help all school districts, certainly regionals, and I believe most of the legislation did pass in regards to the foundation budget and bringing some of the numbers up to what that Foundation Budget Review Commission had done their work on and recommended a couple years back. So there is finally some attention, I think, being paid to the plight of financing public education in Massachusetts, and I hope and look forward to more good news coming out of Boston. Thanks.
Before our school committee forum, I would ask if there's any public forum at this opportunity.
I do have one question.
Come on up to the table.
Never been here before, I don't know how big the quorum is. The only thing I don't understand, maybe.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. The only thing I don't.
And tell us who you are.
Oh, okay.
Some of us.
I'm Joe Frazier. I am here in lieu of my daughter, Kylie. She's from Millville, Mass. This cut that you want to make to the budget, which $1,514,529.
Just want to correct you, we don't want to make it.
Oh,
You
no,
said
no, no,
you said
I
the cut
think
that
you know
we do
what
want to
my
make, we
question
don't
is,
want to
don't
make
you?
this.
Okay, but I think, okay, so
That's the gap we're looking at.
That's the worst
Right.
possible thing.
Correct.
So if I hate to say it like this, because I think we're going to call it the O word now.
An
If
override?
the override does not pass, obviously, we're going to be very close to that number. If it does pass, there's a possibility that we won't.
No
No.
matter what, that's
No.
what we need.
Generally, when we have a public forum, we listen to your questions or concerns. We don't necessarily respond to them.
Oh, it's
But in this case, I will respond and say that Millville, in its budget preparation and what the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee approved, was the same budget figure regardless of the override or the non-override. Now, if there's no override, there is a negative deficit, and how that works itself out, none of us know. No one from Millville, no one from the school committee. If the override passes, it's still the contingent budget that was approved. So it's still in Millville, it was $2,879,977 with or without an override. And we will ask at the Millville meeting to increase that by the 38,000 to match the Blackstone FinCom number in both budgets, whether it's override or no override.
Understood.
So the 1.5 million that is at question are cuts that we have to make regardless of what happens in other towns, unless somebody in one of the town proposes $1.5 million to come from somewhere, and, somebody wins the lottery. We are making $1.5 million in cuts.
Okay. Thank you. I think I understood it the way you said it before, but this makes it easier.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just from their finance committee, the number we're hoping to get? Yeah, from 897,886. Anybody else? Yes, please come on up.
No, a question is more of an introduction. My name is Tom Morali. I'm running for state senate, not here to make a political statement, just introduce myself to the school committee. I know I met several of you, but this is an issue, the issue of school funding at the state level is an issue that has come up in just about every town I've talked to, every town school committee. I think it's a plight that the entire state, particularly this district, is facing. And I look forward to talking with all of you about what your experiences are with what I consider a growing problem. And I look forward to basically getting your opinions on how we can move forward, how we can make things right for not only school districts in the state, but especially regional school districts in the state. So just wanted to introduce myself and look forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
not scary people. We'd love to hear anybody's ideas.
So when are we as a committee going to, I think the majority of us thought we were going through this last night with the administrators, and when are we going to come to that number? When will we be sitting here delivering to the public what 1.5 million looks like?
Hopefully soon.
But we know, we already know, with or without town meeting, we know from what we certified to what is being brought to a floor, like you just said, unless someone wins the lottery or generously moves it from somewhere else. We are cutting 1.5 million. So what is our timeline on presenting that to the parents, to the teachers, the staff, the communities, so they understand, not even that it's, if you don't show up at town meeting, this is what we're losing. This is what we're facing as a district this year based on the numbers coming forward. Do we have a timeline for that for ourselves?
No, we do not.
Okay. So I'd like to request that we put that in motion. It doesn't need, we already know what we're facing for town meeting. So we need, I personally think we're not going to recertify until after town meeting, but we do have to know what is coming out of our lines to get to the number that we're going to recertify to. So how are we going to do that as a committee? That's my question.
Recertified the first week of June.
Well, but I want to know when I recertify what is in the budget and what is out of the budget. So before that recertification happens, we need to have meetings put aside to work on that.
We do.
Can we set those now? That's my question.
And I just want to piggyback on Erin, and I had put that out there a little bit today. I think it's very important. I think this whole budget process, I think so often school committees, and not particularly this one, but in general, even the one I teach in, is that the 3 days before the town meeting or whatever vote gets your budget approval, all of a sudden it's like, we're cutting X, Y, Z. It's the first time parents or community members hear, they're in an uproar because they haven't heard this yet. And then there's, 12 times the amount of drama that it needs to be versus we start putting it out there, get feedback on it, and then make more informed choices that include what might make people more irate than others. And I know that in this process, none of us are going to enjoy cutting anything because we thought we needed it and we wanted it and we thought it was best for the school students and our district. But I think in an effort to be transparent for the community members we represent and the towns we represent, this conversation has to be in this forum where we're saying, you know what, we might not be able to have, we may have to increase, I'm just going to go here, we may have to increase athletic fees, or we may have to increase band fees, or we may have to reduce staff, and of course we're not going to say exactly what staff, but I think that those specific things have to start coming out, because that's how we know from our leadership team, from the people who are here, the people who are not here, who are going to get us from other directions, how we know what the feel is.
And I think that's why I asked for what were the general thoughts that people had, because
I wasn't,
I know,
when you said that, I wasn't sure if that was the opening of the door of this paper.
Well, so
personally, I don't know about anybody else.
Just so folks know, the school committee had a workshop last Thursday. And there were some discussions about things we definitely don't want to touch, things that, need to be on the table. Those are the kinds of discussions we can have in very broad and general terms. If again, I don't think we are in a position or should be in a position to say, no more first grade teachers. I'm just throwing that one out there. But, I don't think, and I think we need more insight, just so people know, what was shared with us was a document that Mr. Himmelberger and Mrs. Cobb put together after meeting with each of the members of the leadership team to try to say where were some of those preliminary kinds of things, and it came as a shock to many of us, and came as a shock to much of the leadership team, and because it's hard to find $1.5 million, and so the in-depth part of it, I don't think we're prepared to do. I think the leadership team needs to have the ability to figure out how that impacts their schools, what creative solutions they might have. I think the administration needs to look at that. I think the school committee needs to look at that. But Aaron is right. We need to start that conversation, and Tammy is right. We need to, kind of let people know in very general terms. I'm saying it again, but $1.5 million will be dramatic. It has to be dramatic. It has to be. I mean, we put things that we needed, and in what we needed, there was relatively new stuff. So it's not like we're cutting new stuff. We have to cut into what we have been doing. So whether that is increasing music fees, whether that is increasing athletic fees, whether class sizes, or
yeah, because increasing those fees is not going to
make $1.5 million.
And as we all had a very big lesson in those fees this year, is that's going to, if we increase those fees, it's going to increase their budget lines, which honestly I think we'd be doing a favor to the band if we increase their user fees at this point, since we learned that that athletics was using is going on our line item, and then and spending their fees on top of it. We'd actually be getting more revenue for music if we match them to athletic fees.
And I do know that people felt very strongly that keeping an athletic program and keeping a music program is critical to this district, and so that is not on the table. That is not. That is one of the things
is
that.
Is it or isn't it?
Well, I
because
don't know. Well,
I mean, this list got handed
felt.
to us last night. I just personally don't want to walk into this kind of when we were not sitting down and having the conversations, and frankly leaving not knowing what is on the list and what is off the list, because it is our budget, and we do need to know what is and what isn't. So in order to do that, we have to have
meetings.
So I'm asking you, what is and what, last night I felt very
clear. I voiced my concern about if we lose athletics and if we lose the band, we are going to bleed dry. We are going to lose kids left and right. And I think we just need to be creative. We need to raise user fees. I think many parents would rather pay extra to keep those programs. We school choice kids in for our band program. I just can't see losing those two programs. I think it would be so detrimental, even to people who don't have children in our district, to property values. Try selling a school system that offers nothing, that people are fleeing to new young families. It's not going to happen. There are so many districts. If you look around this central Mass, and if you just did your research, you could see this happening to districts already. And I feel very strongly about those two programs.
And I thought there was consensus last night that those were not touchable, but
they are not.
Right.
And just for whomever is listening that doesn't agree with what Bethany said and what we voiced last night, the simple reality is that if you cut those two very vital programs to this district and to this district, it is not going to save us any money in the long run, because those same people that are school choicing in for band, and I'm looking over at Mr. Schaefer's head over there, who is school choicing into band, who are staying here for band, who are staying for athletics, are going to absolutely school choice out. And their tuition rate is higher than our per pupil expenditure. So we will lose all around, and we will, in the end, cost ourselves money and have a bad district and have lower taxes. So it gets us nowhere, even
even for those people who think, so you're going to cut a French teacher, but you're not going to cut athletics, or, that argument, at the end of the day, you're going to lose because they have school choice and they can go where another band is or where more sports are. So it's not going to save money.
Sickening to me that we're in a position where we don't, and listen, I was in sports. It's fundamental to high school, I think, to have these extracurriculars. But while that's off the table, cutting back to half-day kindergarten or making people pay for a full day of kindergarten is now on the table because of the school choice situation and the way that the system's set up. It's disgusting to me. And sad. So while I agree, it makes no sense to cut athletics and music because we're going to just lose more money. We're going to lose more money because that's all we talk about. That's the position we're in. All we talk about is the bottom line, the dollars. When's the last time we talked about test scores, learning? And I'd like to see that change. But, I don't know, that was just my rant. A little upset. We're talking about drastic cuts. $1.5 million is a number.
It's going to hit everyone.
We're not going to be able to, cut a few teachers here, cut a few teachers there, and make up this difference. We're cutting programs. We weren't talking about, cutting back on sports, cutting back on music. We were talking about getting rid of them. And we still would have had about, what was it, $900,000 that we still would have to cut. So.
Yeah. It's.
So can I go through some of the ideas that were talked about at our budget workshop last week? And I think some of them are actually questions that we were wondering. So the first one was, is BICO interested in leasing any space at middle school? Alan, that you...
As far as I...
Building, just to be clear, that we already rent space in an elementary building and high school. Mm-hmm. So there seems to be a gap there. Would that be...
Could we explain what BICO is?
I don't think in the current BICO structure that there is any more expansion at the middle school. BICO is our collaborative, about 21 member towns, and we are fortunate that we are one of the districts that receives the highest amount of rent as they lease space from us at Millville and at the high school. But I don't think they've just opened up a huge facility on Providence Highway in Walpole, so I don't believe they're looking to expand. But that's been a source of revenue that's really, that we've worked and cultivated, and it works well for both parties.
Something else that was talked about and it was spoken of last night was condensing a building. And would moving 8th grade to the high school help budgetary-wise, as well as possibly saving kids staying in district?
The answer to your first question, Mrs. Vanaco, on the buildings, we currently pay bonds on repairs for all of our buildings. So if we are not prepared to pay off those bonds, we have to keep them as schools. There is a lot of opportunity from leasing space. There's square footage in every building. Certainly, it does make a lot of sense from an educational balance to move grade 8 to the high school. It accomplishes several things. But I think one of the subcommittees certainly could be looking at the accommodations and usage of the square footage that we have. When we had the regional agreement discussion, which currently stipulates that if you're in K through 5, you must attend the elementary school in the town you live in. If we were able to change that so that we could provide grade level buildings, that would be highly advantageous academically and educationally. It really was not, as we looked at it, an opportunity to save a tremendous amount of money because the transportation costs were challenging. But I think you raise an excellent point that we really should look at all 5 of our schools and look at those in terms of how better we could utilize them within the confines of the school building authority, which requires that they must continue as schools, or we have to pay off the bonds, which we would not be able to do. But there's certainly, I mean, when I was in Oxford, which is definitely a little bit different, we used to run daycare before school, after school, and summer programs, and it was a very low cost to the parents, but a huge revenue to the district. And we operated it so parents could drop off at 6:30 in the morning until school began, and then could leave their students after school until 6, and that was a huge benefit. We have a lot more options for families to go to, so it may not be the easiest implementation, but that's certainly a revenue producer that we should look at. There are other opportunities. I think, for me, the one that I am most passionate about is getting the state to adjust the funding formula for agricultural high schools. It's simply wrong to force towns to pay, when you add in transportation, more than twice what it costs to educate our own students in our own district, to have students go to Norfolk Agricultural and cost us upwards of $27,000 per student. It's not fair, it's not right, it's unethical, it's immoral. And the new state Senate president, Karen Spilka, is a former colleague of mine. So she will be getting early and often how I feel about that. That's $600,000 that should be spent on our educational budget that goes out the door to Norfolk Aggie. It's not right. That's a huge opportunity for us. I'll get off the soapbox now. I'll be back later.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yes,
I
go
know
ahead.
we briefly talked about it last night, and that was after you had left. Is there any wiggle room in the regional agreement due to financial crisis to mess with the K-5? Or are we hands tied, can't do anything?
Well, I think we could certainly bring it back.
The language says casualty.
Casualty.
Yeah.
We were wondering what casualty meant.
So we
I
didn't
don't-
know
I
if
don't- I don't know
casualty was
that-
the
I don't know
building
that
falling
terminology.
Financial
down.
casualty, does that qualify?
But I think we should certainly bring it back. I mean, Blackstone overwhelmingly supported that. I think there was concern for the information coming out of Millville, but I think that is something that would greatly enhance the options we have.
Absolutely.
And I think that is something that could get done next year, certainly in a fall town meeting. And I think you would package it as, hey, we can't get the money here, we got to get it here. If we can't get the money here, we need the options to find it here.
Yep.
And I think that's what that would bring to us. The one thing we have is square footage. That's an asset that we have.
Space.
I think we
And
could
so-
save money by turning the air conditioning down right now.
Right now.
I asked if you wanted me to go and do that, and no one said yes.
Somebody got
But
it.
that was 3 hours ago. We
Yeah,
had
it's got a
circulation.
heavy-
Cold right now?
I mean,
Were there other things on the list?
The other, I think,
for
major
summer.
question is, we
Christmas
wanted to know
sweater.
where science curriculum stands with, where is it, I guess, is our.
in the numbers
where-
when.
Right.
It wasn't, so I know after last night, I was confused even more after this, but our question, last Thursday was where is it in the actual budget, right? It wasn't cut at this point, correct? Or was it?
So when the science
It wasn't-
curriculum, or Alan, whoever, so there were some line items that mentioned science curriculum. When I spoke to a middle school science teacher this week, she did indicate that they're doing some of the new curriculum.
Yep, the framework.
However, she thought there was more to come at some point when the budget allowed. And our concern or conversations that we've had are that obviously that needs to be one of our things that gets into this budget at some level in order for these kids to be tested next year or the year after, whatever that falls. But we didn't know where it was anywhere. And Gwen is shaking her head, which makes me sad.
Yeah.
It's nowhere.
It's not there. There are pieces of it in there in terms of what, some folks have asked for in certain programs. But much like, everyone says, well, we went through Common Core in 2009 and 2014 and everything's rosy. No, we're gonna get a brand new history and social studies curriculum for next year. We're going to have a huge movement on computer science and technology, and we have science frameworks that are supposed to be K-8, but we have barely enough bodies to schedule minimal doses right now. And so between staffing and curriculum, it's a big number that we simply don't have.
Do we know the curriculum number?
This page 59 is what we had kind of come to. There's a line item for consumable sciences, science at $100, and then instructional supplies science at $3,100. What is that?
I don't have the answer for
Is
that.
it curriculum, or is it, you're saying the curriculum is on
Probably
it?
classroom supplies.
Classroom supplies, not curriculum.
But not for the new curriculum?
No.
Like test tubes and that kind of stuff.
As Karen Steve said last night, there was no science class at the elementary level. And from what I heard from Tanya, there's no specific plan for the new science curriculum. So that's why we even cut the PD for science curriculum.
So where is that on our cut list?
It was never in the original. It never went in.
Yeah, it was before.
Yes, it never went in.
It was before.
So I guess that would bring me to our next question of something that we knew was in there, which were the the one-to-one middle school and the new technology position. Where do they stand?
They're still here. They're still in the budget.
They're not on this new
They're
list
not
you
on
gave,
this
the
list. It
cut
means
list?
They stays in the
Right.
budget now.
That's before we cut another 900,000.
Right.
Correct.
Or half
Yeah.
the cut, yeah.
Right.
They're not gonna
They're
stay
there
They
now.
can't stay.
And what happens if we do not have the Chromebooks for
Testing.
MCAS?
Ripperoni.
But they took MCAS this week on Chromebook cards in seventh grade.
I said they borrowed them. But what is there a known consequence for not having the ability to take the computerized MCAS?
There is a consequence for it. Not quite sure how quickly the new commissioner is going to want to
Enact it.
make that consequence, but it could be suspension of funding. So that's something that we have to do, and we can pick apart a budget, and we're going to all find things that, of course, we need, but at the end of the day, then we haven't cut anything.
Right.
Right.
And so last night, and that list that surprised many people was supposed to surprise people. Because I thought that last night I would be going for a 3.1% increase because the town of Blackstone says, well, we might have a little more money, but the town of Millville has no money. So that middle ground that I thought we were going to get to, we're not going to get to. No way, no how. So the leadership team over the next several days will continue the work of prioritizing reductions. We have 500,000 so far that have minimal impact. Minimal. That's the way it goes with a budget cut. The first chunk is minimally impacted.
Yeah.
It is the priorities for doing without, and as you go deeper, it becomes a lot more difficult to analyze the impacts.
So let's
And that's where
schedule
we
a budget workshop.
Turn the
How about Monday, May 21st?
The only request
After the
I would
Millville
have
meeting.
is not a workshop, just a meeting. Just so we
Okay,
have
a
minutes
special
and-
meeting. Yeah, we can
Well-
have it on camera.
Yeah, I just think that's important for
Yep,
the,
that's
for
fine.
the conversation and for people to
Yep.
remain updated.
Yep, May 1st,
Minutes
May
list.
21st, I keep
May
saying
21st?
Yeah, it's a Monday.
Yeah.
You're away.
But if the majority can do it,
I can.
Well, we have another regular scheduled meeting on the 24th.
And we have a
Millville-
meeting with the town, the 22nd or the 23rd.
oh, that's right.
Yes,
So that means there'll be lots of meetings that week.
yes.
What time for the 21st?
We could do it no, Jack's not in school anymore. We can do it early. Oh,
It's a Monday.
Working.
Yeah, I do
Who
work.
works at night? Do you work at night?
So- No, no, can't do it like early in the day, like.
oh, no, no, no,
Oh,
no.
no, we all, yeah, we
No, that's
have.
fine. No,
Six.
okay.
I was gonna say, we.
I heard
most of
early, and
us
I'm
have-
like thinking people are suggesting like
Oh, no, no.
earlier.
No, we
Yeah,
have to,
o'clock,
we have to
o'clock.
pay our
We could
bills.
sell,
Down off
but
the
I'm
roof.
still busy.
5, you can be there. Aaron will go at noon, but the rest of us, 5 o'clock,
I can do
6
5.
o'clock?
6 would be
o'clock.
better.
6
I can
o'clock.
do either.
I might show up smelly.
What?
I might show up smelly.
You can sit over
Smelly,
there.
Jack, and 6
We're
o'clock.
going to be on camera, Jack, you need to wear that sweater.
5:21.
Well,
at
if we're in
6.
this
Or the
room, we'll all be
orange
wearing
suit.
down
You're the only
parkas.
Or the orange suit.
Did you get through your list, Aaron?
Monday, May
21st.
Do you want to
6
continue?
o'clock. right here
21st. We
on
will
camera.
continue in exec session.
Oh, okay.
But maybe.
I think yes.
Okay?
Just one more idea that we talked about the other day that I think may be on the table, and I almost, you know how I feel about this, but at the high school, much money is spent on substitutes covering classrooms, and one of the sort of benefits of having the one-to-one Chromebook initiative at that level is the possibility that teachers, when they know they're going to be absent, they can put their work on Google Classroom. The assumption is that high schoolers are mature enough to carry out their duties in a setting like the lunchroom or whatever, and have, sort of condensed classes with no required teaching other than what's on the Chromebook. So in that way, one of our line items that fluctuates year to year and seems to cause us trouble in trying to find the balance is the substitute line. And so doing a sort of group study hall with the intent that learning will continue because the teacher leaves work when he or she is absent is another possible money-saving solution that we have discussed.
We'll be cutting the subline.
So cutting the subline further back, yeah.
And kids would essentially be corralled into a common area to get their work done.
And that probably will not work at any other level, but again, we assume high schoolers could handle the situation. We'll see.
What happens when we assume?
I was going to say, and one other idea that was also brought to the table last night was the possibility of shared grade classrooms. We should throw that one out there too while we're.
What is it?
Shared grade.
Oh, shared grade.
Elementary.
We're addressing that.
Yeah.
Oh, grades, I guess, good.
That's for the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, good.
All right. School committee forum.
Look at me like,
Oh, sure. Maybe seconds.
Ex-school committee forum.
Steve Tringali, 12 Founts Away in Millville, principal at JFK. You all know this, but, I mean, cutting things like sports and band and things like that, there's so many other things that mean a lot to kids.
Yeah.
On the way here today, I stopped off for the art show at JFK. It was tremendous. Lots of people there showing off all their, what they're doing in art. Monica sat right here, and she told you all about their after-school technology clubs. The high school is doing, their drama club is doing Charlie Brown. Those are not the high-visibility band and sports, but they're extremely important. They get kids in school. student government, NHS, all those type of things. Those are little lines in the budget, but they're extremely important. We got to hang on to those any way we possibly can. One thing, just to, you've got $1.5 million. I mean, I'm the principal of JFK. If anyone wants to come and visit my school, I will give you a tour, just to give you some context. We don't have the cuts laid out right now, but just to give you context of where we currently are, contact me, or I would put forth any of the other principals as well. We're not going to go over budget cuts because they're not there yet. But if you want to see the current state of the schools, contact myself or any of the principals, and we'll gladly give you a tour. Just, again, context what we have, what we don't have. And then if something is mentioned as a cut, you would understand what we're talking about. Next month or so is crazy busy at school, but this is driving a lot of things. So, we can't do the pop-in. Don't just come in and insist on a tour. But if you make an appointment, I would guarantee you, myself or any of the principals would love to give you a tour, just to give you a background and, sort of the state of the schools as they currently are. So, and that's for, parents of kids, but more importantly, people who don't have a connection to the schools right now. You drive by the building, you always wonder what it looked like inside, what it's all about. Make an appointment and stop in. I would love to give you a tour. That's all.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay. Sarah.
Ooh. As was mentioned earlier, the Senate Bill 2506, Act for Modernizing the Foundation Budget for the 21st Century, also known as the Foundation Budget Review Commission Bill, did pass the Senate unanimously. It moves on to the House next. So the work is not done. All of the amendments, there were several amendments, and some of them were specific to regional schools. They were withdrawn because, and I was told it's because they're going to be taken up in the House or Senate Ways and Means budget. So keep an eye out for that. Back to Senate Ways and Means. Anyway, in Ways and Means, the circuit breaker funding went up $18 million. Regional transportation went down $1 million. Charter school reimbursement went up $10 million. Homeless transportation reimbursement went down $1 million. So it's going back and forth. It's not over yet. Just keep contacting our representatives and
Senator Fatman
and Representative Kuros. There's still the question of where the money would come from if the Foundation Budget Review Commission bill went through and was passed in the House. Am I allowed to talk about it?
Are you allowed to talk what?
There are proposals out there to provide the funding to education. One of them is the fair share or a millionaire's tax. Right now, I think it's still held up in court, whether they can earmark it for education and transportation. But that might also get negated if there is a cut in sales tax. So there's a lot going on. I'll try and get information out there as best I can. That's my update.
Thank you, Sarah. Karen.
Just that there is a lot going on, and people can reach out to us. Tammy put it out, I know, onto Facebook, but putting it out on camera, that we all check our email. We're all around. You can call us, ask some questions. If you have creative, out-of-the-box ideas, we'd love to hear them. Otherwise, we're just going to have to move forward as best we can. And I hope to see everybody at the meetings. We need everybody out there.
It's important.
Get your voice heard.
Jack?
Just to encourage people to attend their town meetings.
I mean, that's the democratic process that we have in Massachusetts, and if people want their opinions heard, if they want their voices heard, they have to participate. And whether that's volunteering, or whether that's attending a town meeting, or whether that's voting in election, all of those things are our civic responsibility, And that's what we're trying to teach our students every single day, to be responsible citizens, and I think that we need to do that as well. So I do hope that there are record numbers in both town meetings and at the ballot box and anywhere else that requires people to really get involved in the communities that they live in. Here.
Not because I want to neglect it, but everyone else has already mentioned the coming outs. Our seniors are graduating on June 1st. Our next meeting is the
Their last
24th?
one. 24th.
Will our reps still be at the meeting?
At the 24th, they should be, yes.
And I briefly saw it, but I didn't catch the date. We were invited to the award ceremony. Is that
May
the week?
29th.
Okay. That's the town meeting.
That's town meeting.
May
Isn't it the 31st?
31st. 31st.
31st.
I knew I had two in my
So
calendar.
I just want to make sure what we just scheduled, the 21st, that week of the 21st isn't awards nights or things for us. That's what I wanted to double check.
Nope.
And that's all I have.
Jane, real quick.
Yeah.
For anyone here who doesn't know, or for either town's Board of Selectmen, there are always seats reserved for both those boards and our board at graduation. So I encourage anybody from both those boards and this board to attend.
They are good seats.
They are
Great
great seats. We'll sell them for, $1.5 million.
$1.5 million? You can have mine. And Jack's.
It's not a bad fundraiser.
No, and we do, the school committee, we do congratulate the graduates when they come down the stairs and shake a few hands and try to catch a few people who might trip coming down or whatever.
This committee was the only one that did show up in that capacity for my graduation. So,
Just for you. I think everyone said what I have to say.
I just wanted to commend the seniors who are on their final stretch. Their days counting down. They've done a great job. They've gotten there, and that is fantastic. I am thoroughly enjoying the college acceptance Facebook posts and those kind of things too. I think it just shows our community again that what we're fighting for is worth it. These guys are going to go off to college, get their degrees, come back and take care of us in various capacities, maybe sit here like Jack is doing.
I haven't got my degree yet, though.
Well, you're going to get there. And I also wanted to say I am a social media user, and I try to use that to get some information out from here to friends and people in the community. Oftentimes, if you directly send me a message on a big post, I will not directly message you back because especially if I think it's going to take a wrong turn. So I will private message you. You can email me anytime. I just I will not engage in craziness there. So I do try to put out the information, but I will pull it back to a private message if I deem appropriate.
I did not
So
engage
just
in crazy.
feel free to reach out, though.
Nothing.
Great. I just want to thank the faculty, staff, and administration that work daily with our children and the students. I just think that they aren't praised enough for the work that they do. So thank you to them.
Thank you. Okay, our next meeting is scheduled now for May 21st at 6 p.m. Here, and then our next one after that, that Thursday, May 24th, at 7 p.m. At this point, I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session for discussion of personnel issues. Moved by Sarah, is there a second? Second by Tara. We do a roll call vote for that, Bethany, so.
Yes. Okay. Bethany
Aye.
Benton, yes.
Yeah.
Aye.
Tammy, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Aaron, yes. Jane, yes. Jack?
Yes.
Yes.
Aaron? Sarah? Okay, and we will adjourn from that session, so we will not be coming back to the table. So thank you, those who came tonight, and
Is anybody else curious? It is
we are going to move quickly.